All right, come at you live from Bear Down Studios. We've got the next unrealistic take of the Bears offseason. Woo! I was just wondering today, as I woke up, what I was going to come across that would be unrealistic that the Bears shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't do. Well, they can. The Bears can pull this off, and we'll go through that. So the big buzz this morning is Myles Garrett has requested a trade, and as always, Bears Twitter, Bears social media, everyone is jumping on it. Let's make it happen. All forgetting that there's 90% of this fan base that said, no, we shouldn't take a defensive end with the first-round pick this year. It has to be the offensive line. Oh, our offensive line is decimated. We only have 4 under contract, and we need 10 into the season, and depth has always been our biggest issue. But let's forget about that. Let's forget about the fact that next year is a good offensive tackle class for first round in the draft, that we can get a Braxton Jones replacement if he doesn't pan out this year. Let's forget about that. Leverage the future for the now. Guys, I'm being cheeky, but I want to give you realistic takes about where this team is, because haven't we done this before? That's the big question on my mind. Now, Khalil Mack, everyone in Chicago misses him. Obviously, we talk about bringing him back now that he's in free agency. You know, he's, 4 years later, 4 years older, and nearing, the twilight of his career. I mean, he's still got some juice in his tank, so I'm not upset if we bring Khalil back and Mack at all. Not one bit would I be upset. I actually favor that option. I like that option. I revel in that option. But we've done this before where we leveraged the future for a player when we weren't one piece away. And that's exactly what people are clamoring on. It's just because it's the big news of the day. Is it realistic? No. I'd give it a very small chance with Ryan Pohl's ability to see the vision of this team, building it brick by brick. I would give it a minuscule chance of happening. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. The Bears have the resources. We could do it, but we would be leveraging a lot to do it. In 2018, the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, but we weren't one player away. Now, maybe some of you are saying, well, we've got our quarterback now, and that was the big issue back then. And you're right. Back then, we were the quarterback away. And if you thought we had the quarterback, if Mitch was the answer, if we had it all set, if we were ready to go, dang, this worked out nice. We got Khalil Mack. We're set. Let's make a run for the Super Bowl. Like I said, we have so many resources we need. Some of you guys have said we can't take an edge in the first round when this is a defensive line heavy class. We need an edge. We need a nose tackle. We need a starting guard, center, and another starting guard. Now, some of those can be accomplished through free agency. If you do this, you're eating into a lot of that free agency. Myles Garrett is owed $61 million left on his contract for the next 2 years. That eats $30 million a year up. That's not cheap. That dips into that salary cap where many of you are thinking we have $70, $80 million to spend, when really it's, as you watched my video on the actual salary cap breakdown after draft picks and everything else. Now you're going to take a big draft pick away by trading away the first round. So, $55 million, add back probably 7-ish million for a number 10 overall pick, $6 million. So we'd have $60 million, take 30 away from Myles. All of a sudden, you only have $30 million to accomplish that, and no first-round pick this year and no first-round pick next year. So it's a little befuddling. I do not think it'll happen. But here's your big news this morning right there in the center. I know that's kind of small, guys, but I put around it some of the snips from Bears Twitter of people. Let's discuss. Now, to be fair, some of these guys, like Nick over at Just Another Year, he's not saying we should do it. He's opening conversation, discussion. Should the Bears pursue this trade? Should we trade the Browns for Myles Garrett? But then CHGO and other people on here, Dave from PFR, Clay Harbor. Would we do it? Adam Schefter right here in the middle, guys. Potential trade comp: when 27-year-old Khalil Mack was traded from Oakland to Chicago, the Bears gave up 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, 6th-round pick for Mack, a 2nd-round pick, and a conditional 5th-round pick. So, that's what came back to us. So here's the statement from Khalil Mack. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it right there. As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl. And that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man that I am today. While I've loved calling the city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett. With that in mind, some of you might be saying, well, Adam, you hypocrite. Just yesterday, you said we should trade for Trey Hendrickson. No, I said it's possible. I'm giving possibilities because the day before on the 1st, Trey Hendrickson is being rumored to be shipped out of Cincinnati because of all the needs they have as well. He's a top player. Be worth it. Should we do it? Rumors of him going to Detroit. Well, same thing about Myles Garrett. Maybe Detroit would ship an offer to be able to land him. They're in their Super Bowl window. That's the big difference. The Lions are right there with most of their pieces filled. I don't think the Lions will win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff under contract. I just don't. That's my personal gut feeling. I just don't think, but the Bears have Caleb Williams. The difference is we don't have our trenches built up. We don't have an offensive and defensive line like the Lions, but we can accomplish that if we don't make silly mistakes and moves. So here's the proposal I gave for Trey Hendrickson. I said the Bears could go ahead and trade DeMarcus Walker and our comp pick if Ian Cunningham goes and still get our 17th overall first-round pick this year. A swap is more realistic now because Trey Hendrickson is being talked about as multiple second-round picks instead of multiple first-round picks. He has 1 year left on his contract, not 2 like Myles Garrett. So I decided to go ahead and put it together. What would a realistic comp for Myles Garrett look like? This is, in my opinion, something that would be appetizing to both teams. But I just don't think the Bears are there, guys. I don't think with this offensive line, and I'll show you again, and our defensive line, such a deep defensive class. So here was the trade in 2018 where we traded for Khalil Mack. We got Khalil Mack and a 2nd and a 6th back in future year. Okay, so take that 2nd and 6th, kind of compare it against the 3rd, and it's, kind of equal value, but we get a 2nd, so it's a little higher value. So take that 2nd, 3rd out of there, take the 6th out of there. Essentially what we gave up was 2 first-round picks and a pick swap here from 3rd to 2nd in future years. So that's essentially what we gave up. So equivalent value. If we're giving up DeMarcus Walker, get a 4th-round back so you don't have to do a pick swap, two first-round picks. It'd be number 10 overall this year, which is, that's better than it was back when we traded for Khalil Mack. The 2019 pick in the first round wasn't that high. Wasn't a number 10. So you get a 10 and a future first. You're taking away our ability to sign a tackle next year. Really good offensive lineman next year. We give them DeMarcus Walker to help with the salary cap and to be able to alleviate the trade. We get back their 4th round, beginning of the 4th round pick this year. We get another pick back this year, but it's not going to be your first rounder, and we're going to be left with 39, 41, 72, and 104. So is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Should we do it? Not in my opinion, but again, I try to give you guys realistic takes and let you make your own opinion. I don't think this is something the Bears should do. Biggest reason being is you look at this. This is such a heavy class for defensive end. We do need a defensive end, a nose tackle, and a backup 3 tech. We need those things. We do have some players that can fill in a pinch, but aren't we done with that? Aren't we done with that, revolving carousel of having players like Chris Williams and Darrell Taylor and Jacob Martin that aren't working out and we're just taking flyers on and we don't have the true deep pieces that are really quality? Yeah, Austin Booker's developing, but he's not there yet. Anybody who says he's there yet, they don't understand the process of developing a player. So they're not there yet. So you can take a really solid pick at the top of the draft, someone who's ready, like a Princely Umanmielen, or if someone falls to us like James Pierce or Walter Nolan at nose tackle. You're missing out on that in the top of this draft. And I've shown just how stacked this class is for a defensive end. Now, Abdul Carter will go higher than 10th. I believe he'll go higher than 10th. But this is kind of a consensus mock of a month or 2 ago. Abdul Carter will go in the top 5. James Pierce should go top 10-ish, 12, 15. And some of these guys are already rising the board. Mike Green rising high. Landon Jackson should be rising. Jack Sawyer, Princely Umanmielen. So there's options for the Bears in this year. We shouldn't be trading away all that capital, in my opinion. Again, I just try to give you a realistic take, give you some things to look at and to analyze over. But when you combine that with our offensive line and the needs, and all of you guys, most of you were saying, we got to take trenches at the top of this draft. We can't take a running back. We can't even take a defensive end. Well, that's what you're doing. You're trading away this year's defensive end and next year's left tackle for Myles Garrett. And make it make sense to me, because it doesn't make sense to me. These are all the holes we have. Look at all the holes, especially if you consider Ryan Bates who knows medically if he needs to retire or if he's ready to go. Kiran Amagaji needs to develop. So, I mean, it's you're cutting off your nose to spite your face is what you're doing if you trade for Myles Garrett. Maybe the Bears will do it, though. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Let me know if you think this makes sense. If giving up 2 first-round picks, which would be the minimum, then maybe swapping them, DeMarcus Walker, and getting back a 4th-round pick in the process, something like that. Maybe, but, man, giving up those 2 first-round picks when we've done this before, when the team isn't quite Super Bowl ready. If we were charging for the playoffs this last year, if we were Super Bowl ready, I can see it. If it wasn't the 10th overall pick in such a loaded defensive line class, I could understand it. But I think more than anything, this is hype. This is hype by fans wanting one of the best defensive ends in the class. Obviously, Myles Garrett, reigning defensive player of the year. So he's a true talent. He's special. He would change the dynamic of this defense. But is it worth giving that much up for? I feel like we've done this before. I think we've done this when we weren't ready for it. I wish we were in the Lions position where we could do that and not have to hesitate. But even then, as a Lions fan, I wouldn't be comfortable with Goff leading us all the way, even with Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. That's just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. I think there's some basis for it. There's a lot of argument against it. I'm on the side, if you're asking for my opinion, which, believe me, I mean, about half a dozen of you hit me up on the Twitter messages, and then a bunch of you hit me on other spots saying, should we do this? My answer, no, we should not do this. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't liked the button, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. And until next time, see you later. The Bears, bear down.